Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off because today I'm going to embark on an old school flashback and take a look at 1977's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. And we'll get off to a roaring start right after this. Howdy, 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 gang, and Happy New Year. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. So today is New Year's Day, and this kicks off our month-long old school for the New Year celebration, where both here on the Gaming Gang YouTube channel and over on thegaminggang.com, we are focusing on role-playing games that have an old school vibe. And I thought to myself, you know what? What better way to celebrate the old school than by actually going almost as far back as we can and take a look at an old school book. So I do not own the white box set. I had it way back in the day. I no longer do. I don't have the brown box. I don't have the wooden box, but I do have all of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons core books in pretty good condition. So I thought, you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's page through the Monster Manual, kind of do a little stream of consciousness. Nothing scripted. Just going to talk about the Monster Manual itself. Maybe you'll learn something that you didn't know about it, or then again, maybe not. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to kick off our month-long celebration. So let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the Monster Manual, an illustrated compendium of monsters, Ariel Servant to Zombie, written by Gary Gygax. This is edited by Mike Carr as well. Of course, Dungeons and Dragons originally was published by TSR. I'm also going to talk a little bit at the end of the video about collecting Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books and modules, kind of what you should look for, what you should be prepared for as well. Of course, these core books are now available in PDF. So Wizards of the Coast, not that long ago, decided that they were going to reproduce the reprints that came out in the early 2000s. In fact, I want to say I think it was like 2011, 2012. The reprints came out. They're like premium reprints. So you can actually get those PDFs. The Monster Manual actually is available for $9.95 over on the Dungeon Masters Guild. Of course, do want to point out the Gaming Gang is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to say visit Dungeon Masters Guild or Drive Through RPG, by all means, please stop by the website, click on one of our banner ads, and that way get a little portion of that sale if you happen to purchase something. You can also get this print on demand in hardcover. Off the top of my head, I think it is $39.95 from Dungeon Masters Guild. So let's take a look at the back here. Over 350 monsters. And this is only 112 pages. Yeah, I think it's 112 if I remember correctly. So, of course, obviously, that means we've got multiple monsters and creatures on each page, which is very unusual because nowadays, of course, when you pick up a bestiary or monster manual, normally each entry gets at least a page, and some get multiple pages as well. I think off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, I think it's the lizard men who get the longest write up in here, and not very long either. This book provides a complete alphabetical listing of all monsters encountered in the various works which comprise the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game system. It's an invaluable aid to players and dungeon masters alike. Let me get a little stat block example here. I'm sure some folks out there are thinking, geez, Jeff, why are you taking a look at a book that's 40 some years old? Everybody's seen it. Well, you know what? People may have seen the PDFs. They may have seen it from afar, but I don't, I think there's still people out there who have not actually had a chance to get a closer look at the Monster Manual. And I thought this would be kind of fun. All right, let's jump on in. Something I should point out, especially when it comes to the Monster Manuals, usually you've got some writing in the books. Thankfully, this copy that I've got, it's just got somebody's initials and I guess their last name. I can't really make it out. And there's also some blue marker highlighter on one entry. I don't know why it's on just one entry. It's not really, if I remember it, I don't think it's a very important one either. But you're usually going to find some sort of writing in the monster manuals. If not, then usually that copy's going for a good buck on the secondary market, or the covers are all beat up. I will kind of discuss some thoughts about collecting the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books and adventures toward the end of the video. So we get a foreword from Mike Carr, who was the editor on this, editor on the Player's Handbook as well. I think he was the editor for the Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm not sure, but I do know that he was the editor on the Player's Handbook as well. So we get a little preface by Gary Gygax, and we get some notes kind of explaining how do you read these stat blocks. Speaking of the stat blocks, something I find pretty funny is that there is no mention of any experience points in these stat blocks. And of course, your player characters need experience points to level up. And this came out in 1977. And I'm sure a lot of people already know this was the first book to come out in the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons lineup. Not the Player's Handbook, not the Dungeon Master's Guide, but the Monster Manual. So at this point in time, you had original Dungeons and Dragons that was available. You had the supplemental digest sized books that were available as well. And then 1977 rolls around and the Monster Manual comes out as, for some reason, there's a bug. It's January 1st. And there is a little bug down here in the Duct Tape Studios. All right, well, come on, buddy. Keep going. All right, come on. I'm not going to squish it. He's not going to be around much anyway, because it's going to start getting really cold down here. All right, bud. Come on. Jump on it. There we go. Hey, what can I tell you, right? This is we're just hanging out, taking a look at the book. I'm not going to edit that out. So anyway, so there were no XP indications in here because experience points were based on hit dice for first edition. And that table was in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So it was kind of like, okay, so we've got all these creatures, all these monsters. How do I do experience points for them? This edition that I've got is the fourth printing, which was 1979, which is right about when I got into D&D. And I was not in high school yet. I didn't start high school until 1980. And I think I was first introduced to, well, I know I was first introduced to Dungeons and Dragons by a friend of my brother's. And funny enough, my brother is not much of a gamer. And he certainly is not really a role-playing gamer. Although lately he's been more open to playing. But he actually was the first one that I knew who was playing D&D. And one of his friends had me roll up a character. And I'll never forget, I had like an 18 strength. And the friend of my brother's was like, "Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool." And then, of course, I never played. Just rolled up a character. Yeah, that happens a lot, doesn't it? With a lot of role-playing games out there. Happened to us back in the day. Somebody would pick up a new role-playing game and everybody get together, we'd roll up characters and actually never play that game. So it happened all the time. something to also mention about the monster manual here is that for some strange reason, a lot of people out there think that Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was aimed at kids, and it wasn't. It never was. D&D was not aimed at young kids. D&D and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons were aimed at college age players, not teenagers, well, older teens, but it wasn't aimed at small kids. That's why you'll notice the artwork throughout here. There are a lot of topless female monsters and creatures in here. Of course, the game was aimed at young men, but it was also, aimed at an older group. Now, when basic D&D came out, or even when White Homes came out, then that D&D was aimed at younger players. More so the basic and expert boxes, not necessarily Blue Home so much. Blue Home was kind of, hey, let's introduce you to the game, but it's not necessarily aimed at younger players. I know it's super confusing. All the different editions of Dungeons and Dragons that were going on at this time and that were still being sold. Because I know I purchased the white box set, I think 80, 81. So that was still on sale. So by that point in time, you had AD&D. All three of the books should have been out by 79. You had the Blue Holmes box, and you also had the white box that was available as well with original Dungeons and Dragons. So it can be very confusing for people. I know, even to this day, I still think it was an oddball marketing strategy to have all these different versions of Dungeons and Dragons, and not only do that, but to have them all taking place in different universes. You'd have thought, hey, why don't we put this all in one setting? And I know down the line, of course, we had all the various different other settings that came out, like Dragonlance and Dark Sun and Planescape and things like that. But I'm talking about early on in the early history of D&D. You'd have thought they'd have all shared the same setting, the same universe, but they did not. Some of the artwork in here is really well done. And some of the artwork is like the larva is like, what? Seriously? That's not scary. This is weird looking. It's very cartoonish. But then we have here we go. There's that marker for the leprechaun. It's like, oh, I gotta make sure I don't forget about this invisible at will part. We got the lich. So I've heard people complain about the artwork in the Monster Manual, and I think the vast majority of the artwork is actually pretty good. Actually, you know what? It's not the lizard man that's the longest. Oh, it's the lizard. That's what it was. The different kind of lizards tends to be like one of the longer entries in here. Even dragons don't have like huge long entry at this point in time. So we have the lycanthrope. Anyway, back to the artwork. Some people complain, oh, this artwork is terrible. Okay, there's some that's not great. And then there's some that, we've got the little like comedy cartoons that were sprinkled through these books. But if you want to talk about bad artwork, take a look at the original Dungeons and Dragons books. That artwork in those is pretty bad. And it's fine. I mean, it's not that big a deal. But I mean, when people go, oh, the artwork is, oh, this is awful. Not really. Of course, it's line art. What do you expect? These days, yes, everybody wants, oh, wow, full color illustrations, tons of detail. That's what's expected. But I got to admit, I definitely dig the old line art for the most part. Like the owlbear, it's not very good. So just kind of taking a peek through. I actually like the Rakshasa or Rakshasha, Sasha. People pronounce it all different ways. I like that piece of art. I think that's pretty cool. Yes, the rot grub. Was it? Isn't it the giant ants? I'll have to take jump back. I think it's like two adventurers are being swarmed by giant ants. See, of course, another aspect of the old school style of play is the player characters are not superheroes, especially at first level. They are just kind of regular Janes and Joes embarking on an adventuring career. Now, they could become legends in the future, but to start off with, no. I do have to point out that my copy of the book has some discolorations and it kind of clears up, but there's some discoloration there. I paid $45 on eBay for this, and I was mainly concerned with the condition of the front and back cover. Got the troglodyte, which we don't discuss those anymore, so they are not troglodytes anymore. The treant. Did I just pass the vampire? I think I did. Yeah. So I think, the vampire art, that's pretty good. The Umber Hulk, pretty nice. Giant wasp. Boy, that'd be gross. That would be awful. The Will o' the Wisp, Yeti, and we wrap up with the zombie. So here, it's real quick. It's right at the front of the book. I could have swore it's it's been a while since I peeked through this. There we go. Yeah, giant ants. Where it's like this guy's being swarmed by all these giant ants. Okay, so that is a look at. Actually, I like this artwork as well. I always like this. We get an appendix with treasure types, and then we also get an index as well. And then discussion of, hey, what else is for sale from TSR? So in 79, Deities and Demigods was out as well in 79. World of Greyhawk box set. Really? Was it out then? I thought that was a little bit later. And all the various different modules that were also available. Then we had the basic. So we had basic D&D. Okay. So there is the monster manual. Now, something that I want to mention that I've heard gamers over the years talk about is how, gosh, it's D&D has just gotten more and more expensive to get into, to dip your feet into. You got to buy these 3 books, and these books are so expensive. Here's something that I found very interesting. When the Monster Manual originally came out, it was $9.95. I swear, I seem to recall I bought mine in 1979 for $10. And I got my player's handbook for $10. And I got my Dungeon Master's Guide for $15. Nowadays, now, of course, you can go on, say, Amazon, and you can get all 3 core books for around 90. You usually can get a really good deal on Amazon for all 3 books. So maybe $90 to $100. So the thing I find very interesting is if we take the buying power of the dollar, the same buying power that nowadays for 5e for the 3 core books is the same buying power the dollar had back in the late 1970s when they were $10, $15. So at that point in time, $45 was the equivalent of about $110 today. So it really hasn't changed all that much, is what I'm trying to say. That the introductory cost to get a lifetime of entertainment, and if you are a role player, if you are a game master, you already know that. You just need to pick up a few books, and if you've got the imagination, that is a lifetime of adventure and entertainment, not just for yourself, but for loads of other players you run that game for, or loads of other players that you play that game with. So I tell people all the time, role playing games is the most cost effective. You get so much bang for your buck with role playing games. Even if a core book is $100, you're still going to get so much use out of it if you play that game, if you run that game. So if you're interested in collecting the advanced D&D books, a few things that you're going to want to look for, and especially like the cover. So like I said, I got this $45 this about a year ago on eBay. I just had a wave of nostalgia roll over me. I thought, I would like to have those AD&D books again. But of course I didn't have like, loads of funds to be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to get this pristine edition for $500." No. So I got, like I said, once again, I got this for $45, and I think it was a steal because once again, you just have the little writing in the front. We got the one marker highlighting for the leprechaun, and then there is some discoloration on about 8 pages inside. But the cover itself is actually pretty nice. One thing you're going to pay top dollar for any of the AD&D books if you are looking for pristine corners, because it's going to be very, very difficult to find any of these books for, say, $50 on the secondary market that are not going to have some corner wear. Now, this isn't so bad. This is the worst spot is down here. Something else that's important for you to take a look at is on the spine along here. You will see a lot of copies. Let's see if I can kind of try to get a little glare on it. You'll see a lot of copies that are for sale on the secondary market where it almost looks like there are bubbles that run along on the front here and along the back here. And what that is it is the cover actually coming away from the rest of the book. So they are bubbles that they're kind of the wear and tear is causing that to come apart. So taking a look at the back cover, once again, not a whole lot of cover wear. Down here is up here. That's actually the artwork. That's not like damage to the cover. So all in all, like I said, I felt that this was a pretty nice copy to get my hands on for $45. So if you are looking to pick up the Monster Manual in fairly decent shape, you can expect to pay anywhere from about $50 to $70 on eBay. If you're looking for this edition of the artwork, because there is the later edition when they brought in Jeff Easley to do the artwork on the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, the Dungeon Master's Guide, so it all had kind of a uniform look to it. Those are actually relatively inexpensive. You can get those. I've seen those in pretty good condition. Sell for. This is not what opening bids were. These are what they sold for about 25 to 30. You can get this edition relatively beat up for about $25 as well. So it's not super expensive if you want to add some of these vintage AD&D books to your collection. Not like some of the modules out there. If you want to try to collect those, some of them are just hugely expensive and, of course, very, very rare. So that is the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual from TSR. So there you have it. Every Saturday throughout January, I am going to share a look at one of the core books for Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm going to do it in release order. So next Saturday, I am going to share a look at the Player's Handbook, which is right over there, right over my shoulder. So we'll take a look at that on Saturday, the upcoming Saturday. Don't forget, On the Gaming Gang Dispatch, my live stream, we are taking a look at old school games all throughout the month as well. And we're going to kick off with the Original Adventures Reincarnated, the first 3 volumes. Each night, we're going to take a look at one of the volumes. And then throughout the month, I'm going to share looks at the other 3 volumes that are available now. So you're going to get to see volumes 1 through 6 of Original Adventures Reincarnated from Goodman Games. So look forward to that. Should mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't subscribed already. And if you do, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this, it'll also tell you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope 2022 is going to be a fantastic year for everybody. Go away, COVID. And of course, I also hope that each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.